the race for rare earth elements. This is an electric vehicle. It contains about 1 kilogram of rare earth minerals. The F-35 fighter jet, which is the pride of American air power, contains 417 kilograms. The DDG-51 destroyer contains a whopping 2,359 kilograms, and even our smartphones contain rare earth minerals. What most people do not realize is that a lot of military and civilian products have rare earth elements hidden inside them. Now, take that and scale it up by the millions. Different machines, same secret ingredients. Names like neodymium, praseodymium, samarium, dysprosium, and terbium. To most of us, those words sound like gibberish or maybe a chemistry quiz. But to modern defense systems, they're everything. Here's the catch. Almost all of them trace back to one place: China. Stop and think about that. The world's strongest military is built on materials refined by its biggest rival. You see, around 85% of rare earths are refined in China. And over 90% of the world's rare earth magnets, the kind that power electric vehicles, wind turbines, smartphones, and missile guidance systems, come from there. Automakers, tech companies, and defense contractors across the globe depend on those metals. Without them, our modern machines wouldn't just slow down, they'd stop. For the Pentagon, this isn't just a supply issue. It's a strategic vulnerability. In the 21st century, control over minerals can mean control over power itself. Now here's the irony. Despite the name, rare earths aren't really rare. They're actually scattered all over the planet, including plenty right under American soil. The problem isn't finding them, it's refining them. Turning rare earth into usable material is messy, expensive, and extremely toxic. It produces radioactive waste and acidic byproducts that can poison rivers and soil. Then, decades ago, when environmental rules tightened and costs rose, the United States decided to bow out. That decision changed everything. Once upon a time, America led the world in rare earth production. Most of it came from a single site: the Mountain Pass Mine in California. But by the 1980s, strict regulations and high costs began to squeeze producers. Mining and processing rare earths in the US became unprofitable. So, production shifted overseas. By 1996, Washington even shut down the US Bureau of Mines, the agency responsible for research and oversight. And while America stepped back, China stepped in. Beijing saw opportunity where others saw pollution. It accepted the environmental burden and threw massive state support behind the rare earth industry. Low labor costs and weak environmental rules gave China a massive edge. Then came export incentives and tax breaks designed to crush foreign competitors by undercutting prices worldwide. By 2005, China controlled 98% of global production. Even today, though its share has dipped, its control over processing and refining remains overwhelming. You might be able to mine rare earths elsewhere, but nearly all of it still has to pass through Chinese refineries before it becomes usable. Now, that's dominance, and China knows it. In 2010, after a dispute with Japan over islands in the East China Sea, China halted all rare earth exports to Tokyo. That single move sent shockwaves through global supply chains. Prices spiked overnight. Manufacturers panicked. The world learned a hard truth, that China could weaponize rare earths anytime it wanted. And it did it again. In 2025, during the height of the US-China trade war, Washington raised tariffs on Chinese goods. Beijing hit back, not with bombs or missiles, but with export controls on 7 types of rare earths and magnets. The message was clear: mess with our economy, and we'll squeeze your supply chain. The result? Panic in US manufacturing and emergency talks to de-escalate. Rare earths aren't just metals anymore, they're leverage. The Pentagon has known about this vulnerability for years. A Rand Corporation study in 2024 warned that even a 90-day supply disruption could shut down production at 78% of US defense contractors. That's nearly 4 out of every 5 defense suppliers. Now, ask yourself this: How can the world's top military power depend so heavily on a foreign rival for the materials it needs to defend itself? Now, let's look back at Trump's first term, and also his second term. Remember when there was talk about taking over or buying Greenland? Most people thought it was absurd. But there was method to the madness. And there was strategy behind the bluster. Greenland's Kuvena field region holds some of the richest deposits of heavy rare earths, like dysprosium and terbium, the kind needed for advanced magnets and weapon systems. In 2016, a semi-private Chinese firm tried to invest there, but the project was blocked by Greenland's government over environmental concerns. Meanwhile, north of the border in Canada, vast deposits of neodymium and praseodymium lie buried in the country's western and northern territories. And yes, Chinese companies have also moved in there. To Washington, that's not just business. That's a security threat. Because if China gains influence over those reserves, even friendly neighbors might become part of its strategic orbit. So the US began to fight back. Over the last few years, Washington has invoked the Defense Production Act, a Cold War law to ramp up domestic mining and processing of critical minerals. One of the biggest hopes lies in Round Top Mountain, Texas, a site holding around 130,000 tons of rare earth reserves across 16 elements. It's being developed by USA Rare Earth, which plans to meet 20% of America's demand by 2027. To complete the loop, the company is also building a $100 million magnet plant in Oklahoma, aiming to produce 2,000 tons a year, with plans to double that. Meanwhile, MP Materials, the company that runs the old Mountain Pass mine, is back in business. With Pentagon support, it's building a magnet factory in Fort Worth, Texas, and the government has even agreed to guarantee prices to shield it from market swings. You see what's happening here? After decades of outsourcing, America is trying to rebuild what it once had. Congress has also gotten involved. The 2025 National Defense Authorization Act set aside $1.2 billion to build a strategic reserve of rare earths, basically a national stockpile for emergencies. Another $400 million went toward supporting U.S. companies in mining, refining, and magnet production. It's a serious start, but far from enough. The biggest challenge: time. Experts estimate it will take a decade and between $10 to $15 billion to build a fully self-sufficient American supply chain. That means new mines, refineries, factories, trained workers, and maybe hardest of all, public support. Because rare earth mining isn't clean. It leaves behind acidic runoff, toxic waste, and sometimes radioactive residue. And unlike China, the US can't just look the other way. So how do you secure critical minerals without sacrificing environmental standards? Well, that's the dilemma. Still, there's hope. New, cleaner methods are emerging. Some use biological solvents that can cut waste by as much as 85%. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Then there's the human side. Many rare earth deposits lie near indigenous lands, Navajo and Apache territories among them. Some projects have already sparked protests and lawsuits. In a democracy, those voices matter. That slows things down, yes, but it's also part of what makes America, America. Authoritarian states can bulldoze ahead. Democracies have to debate, compromise, and find balance. This fight over rare earths isn't just about resources. It's a reflection of national values. Even if the US manages to rebuild its supply chain, it's not racing alone. China is expanding fast. Beijing is buying up stakes in mines across Myanmar, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Tanzania, Congo, and Brazil. In fact, last year it recorded its highest number of overseas mining acquisitions in more than a decade. So even as America tries to stand on its own, China is spreading its reach across the map. At the end of the day, this isn't a story about metals. It's a story about power, dependence, and the invisible threads that tie economies and militaries together. And ask yourself this: can a nation that once led the world in innovation afford to lag behind in the materials that make innovation possible? Because every jet, computer, missile, every electric car rely on materials monopolized right now by China. The US can pour billions into catching up, and it should. The clock is ticking. The next great race isn't for oil. It's for rare earths, the metals that quietly power our modern world. And here's the first big move the US is undertaking. Enter Australia. You see, America isn't fighting this race alone. Half a world away, in the ancient red heart of Australia, lies a solution and a new kind of alliance. Beneath its deserts and mountain ranges sits one of the planet's richest caches of rare earth minerals. Australia has what the US desperately needs: stable governance, world-class mining expertise, and a landscape brimming with untapped critical resources. For decades, those resources stayed underground. Now, they're at the center of a global power shift. In October 2025, the United States and Australia signed a landmark deal, a partnership to secure and process rare earth elements and critical minerals. It wasn't just a trade agreement. It was a strategic pact, an answer to years of dependence on China's supply chain dominance. This deal doesn't just focus on digging minerals out of the ground. It aims to build the entire value chain from mining and refining to advanced manufacturing. Billions of dollars in joint investment have been pledged to projects like the Nolans Rare Earths Project in Australia's Northern Territory, one of the world's most promising sources of neodymium and praseodymium, essential for electric motors and precision defense systems. For the US, this partnership means security, a guaranteed flow of rare earths refined in a friendly nation, free from geopolitical leverage. For Australia, it means transformation. For decades, it's been known as a supplier of raw materials like iron, coal, gold. Now, it has the chance to move up the ladder to process, refine, and capture far more of the value before exporting. This will create jobs, infrastructure, technology, all born from a resource once overlooked. The stakes couldn't be higher. China's grip on refining has long been its hidden weapon, one it has used before to pressure rivals. This US-Australia alliance is a direct counterweight. It's the industrial equivalent of building a new defensive shield, not of missiles, but of minerals. It's also a reminder that in the age of clean energy and digital warfare, power doesn't just come from armies or oil fields. It comes from chemistry, from supply chains, from the rocks beneath our feet. But this isn't a simple fix. Refining rare earths is messy and expensive, something China has been willing to do because of looser environmental rules. Australia, on the other hand, just like the US, has to balance development with accountability. That means strict environmental safeguards, consultation with indigenous communities, and cleaner refining technologies. Projects like Nolans are designed with that balance in mind, using advanced waste management and water recycling systems to reduce the environmental toll. The hope is to prove that rare earths can be produced responsibly, not recklessly. For Washington, the partnership with Canberra isn't just economic. It's strategic, a cornerstone in what the Pentagon calls allied resilience. By securing access to minerals from trusted partners, the US reduces the risk that a single export ban or trade dispute could cripple its defense industry. It also strengthens alliances beyond Australia. Japan, Canada, and the European Union are watching closely, exploring their own partnerships to diversify critical mineral supplies. A global realignment is underway, countries banding together not through ideology, but through necessity. Still, challenges remain. Building refineries and processing plants takes time, often years. Costs can spiral, markets can shift. And until these facilities reach full capacity, the world's dependence on China won't disappear overnight. But every new project, every new investment, chips away at that dominance. Slowly, the balance is shifting. As one analyst put it, this is how you win without fighting. By building, not bombing. From the deserts of Central Australia to the manufacturing hubs of Texas and California. This partnership represents something bigger than business. It's about redefining where power comes from and who controls it. Together, the United States and Australia are building a new foundation for the modern world, one element at a time. The global race for rare earths isn't just about who can dig fastest. It's about who can build smarter, cleaner, and stronger. And in this race, it looks like America may finally have an ally that is as rich in resources as it is in resolve. The Earth may hold the materials of the future, but it's partnerships like this that determine who shapes it. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think or what topics you'd like to see next. Also remember, sip and subscribe. The button is down there, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on new content. Stay awesome, stay hydrated, and I'll catch you in the next one.